Hello friends, and welcome back to the tale filled with suspense and curiosity. Do you remember that we found out how Norma was tempted to use the card and call back Mr. Stewart in the last part? Well, this indeed has started to tempt us to read more about the story of Norma and Mr. Stewart. Let us find out what's going to happen in this part. The package was lying by the front door. Norma saw it as she left the elevator. Well, of all the nerve, she thought. She glared at the carton as she unlocked the door. I just won't take it in, she thought. She went inside and started dinner. Later, she went into the front hall. Opening the door, she picked up the package and carried it into the kitchen, leaving it on the table. She sat in the living room looking out the window. After a while, she went back into the kitchen to turn the cutlets in the broiler. She put the package in the bottom cabinet. She'd throw it out in the morning. Maybe some eccentric millionaire is playing games with people, she said. Eccentric is referred to something that is odd. Arthur looked up from his dinner. I don't understand you. What does that mean? Let it go, he told her. Norma ate in silence. Suddenly, she put her fork down. Suppose it's a genuine offer, she said. Arthur stared at her. Suppose it's a genuine offer? All right, suppose it is. He looked incredulous. What would you like to do? Get the button back and push it? Murder someone? Norma looked disgusted. Murder? How would you define it? If you don't even know the person, Norma said. Arthur looked astounded. Are you saying what I think you are? If it's some old Chinese peasant 10,000 miles away, some diseased native in the Congo, how about some baby boy in Pennsylvania? Arthur countered. Some beautiful little girl on the next block. Now you're loading things. The point is, Norma, he continued, what's the difference who you kill? It's still murder. The point is, Norma broke in, if it's someone you've never seen in your life and never will see, someone whose death you don't even have to know about, you still wouldn't push the button? Arthur stared at her, appalled. You mean you would? $50,000, Arthur. What has the amount? $50,000, Arthur. Norma interrupted. A chance to take that trip to Europe we have always talked about. Norma, no. A chance to buy that cottage on the island. Norma, no. His face was white. She shuddered. All right, take it easy, she said. Why are you getting so upset? It's only talk. After dinner, Arthur went into the living room. Before he left the table, he said, I'd rather not discuss it anymore, if you don't mind. Norma shrugged. Fine with me. She got up earlier than usual to make pancakes, eggs, and tea for Arthur's breakfast. What's the occasion? He asked with a smile. No occasion. Norma looked offended. I wanted to do it, that's all. Good, he said. I'm glad you did. She refilled his cup. Wanted to show you I'm not, she shrugged. Not what? Selfish. Did I say you were? Well, she gestured vaguely. Last night, Arthur didn't speak. All that talk about the button, Norma said. I think you, misunderstood me. In what way? His voice was guarded. I think you felt She gestured again, that I was only thinking of myself. Oh, I wasn't. Norma, well, I wasn't. When I talked about Europe, a cottage on the island. Norma, why are we getting so involved in this? I'm not involved at all, she drew in a shaking breath. I'm simply trying to indicate that. What? That I'd like for us to go to Europe. Like for us to have a cottage on the island. Like for us to have a nicer apartment, nicer furniture, nicer clothes, a car. Norma, we will, he said. When? He stared at her in dismay. Norma, when? Are you? He seemed to draw back slightly. Are you really saying? I'm saying that they're probably doing it for some research project. She cuts him off. That they want to know what average people would do under such a circumstance. That they're just saying someone would die in order to study reactions. See if there would be guilt, anxiety, whatever. You don't really think they'd kill somebody, do you? Arthur didn't answer. She saw his hands trembling. After a while, he got up and left. When he'd gone to work, Norma remained at the table, staring into her coffee. I'm going to be late, she thought. She shrugged. What difference did it make? While she was stacking dishes, she turned abruptly, dried her hands, and took the package from the bottom cabinet. Opening it, she set the button unit on the table. She stared at it for a long time before taking the key from its envelope and removing the glass dome. She stared at the button. How ridiculous, she thought. All this furor over a meaningless button. Reaching out, she pressed it down. For us, she thought angrily. She shuddered. Was it happening? A chill of horror swept across her. In a moment, it had passed. She made a contemptuous noise. Ridiculous, she thought, to get so worked up over nothing. She threw the button unit, dome, and key into the wastebasket and hurried to dress for work. She had just turned over the supper steaks when the telephone rang. She picked up the receiver. Hello? Mrs. Lewis? Yes? This is the Lenox Hill Hospital. She felt unreal as the voice informed her of the subway accident. The shoving crowd, Arthur pushed from the platform in front of the train. She was conscious of shaking her head, but couldn't stop. As she hung up, she remembered Arthur's life insurance policy for $25,000 with double indemnity for. No, she couldn't seem to breathe. She struggled to her feet and walked into the kitchen numbly. Something cold pressed at her skull as she removed the button unit from the wastebasket. There were no nails or screws visible. She couldn't see how it was put together. Abruptly, she began to smash it on the sink edge, pounding it harder and harder until the wood split. She pulled the sides apart, cutting her fingers without noticing. There were no transistors in the box, no wires or tubes. The box was empty. She whirled with a gasp as the telephone rang. Stumbling into the living room, she picked up the receiver. Mrs. Lewis? Mr. Stewart asked. It wasn't her voice shrieking, so it couldn't be. You said I wouldn't know. The one that died. My dear lady, Mr. Stewart said, do you really think You knew your husband? So friends, did you like this long but tragic story? It indeed had kept us all hooked. I hope you enjoyed this masterpiece by Richard Matheson. We will discuss this story further in the following video lesson. Have a good day.